Welcome back to the RCSD 1014 show, where you can get the most accurate information from the department. My name is Deputy Jay Weaver from the Public Information Office. Now, last week we had a very sensitive subject where we had a missing person by the name of Shelton Sanders go missing 24 years ago. Now, today we have another case. This one involves a murdered individual from September 1st, 1996. I'd like to welcome back Investigator Dottie Cronise from the Investigation Cold Case Unit back to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you that we can do this again.
Yes, ma'am. Now, we're venturing back to 1996.
Yes.
Out on Sharp Road in Columbia, a gentleman was shot and murdered. Can you tell us about that?
He was at the Purple Rain Club, which is on Sharp Road, right before you get to Fairfield Road. And he was in the club. There have been varying stories that he got into an argument in the club. Another story was, well, one of the guys in the club he had an ongoing feud with. So you're trying to balance out these rumors and figure out where the truth is. So he left the Purple Rain Club, and of course he had been drinking, and he is walking home. So as he goes out the Purple Rain Club, he's going to go to the left because he lives up on Green Tree. And walking up the road, at that point, someone shoots him. And supposedly folks heard an argument in some of the statements that we got. But we're still trying to verify who it was and actually solidify that piece of information.
Now, do we know if Donald Carlos, who also had two children at the time, they were 2 and 5, was he frequent at the Purple Rain Club? Were there any other witnesses there that maybe they knew something and maybe conflicting stories, or where did it go cold?
It went cold after, I think they had, the investigators before me years ago in 96, it went cold after they reached a point where, like where we are right now, I'm going back and re-interviewing people, trying to validate information and figure out what really happened to him and who is the culprit. So that's, there are varying stages where it goes cold, but at this point, there was no further information to be found at that point in time. And people, it was a community club. A lot of folks lived down in that area. And I actually grew up out there. So it was a bit of a country still at that point, but it was growing, and it was a community where it felt like everybody knew everybody.
Now, I understand Mr. Carlos, he didn't have a criminal history per se. He was a family man, and he was just out having a good time that night.
He was. I think someone had actually given him some money to go to the club that night. I'm not sure where he was working at the time, but he was in a little bit of need, so a friend gave him some funds, and he went to the club, and it went downhill from there, apparently. But you've got a photo of him. If folks will look, there's one on the website. And the way our website is designed, when you look at the cold case unit, it'll have the flyers in there on each one of our cold cases. And our folks were able to design that, so if you wanted to pull that up and print it and hand it out in your neighborhood, you certainly could. But the photo there of Donald he's got this big smile on his face, and he's waving, and you just wonder what he could have done that somebody would take that away from his family for 29 years.
Was there ever a thought or discussion through the previous investigations that maybe it was an accident, or maybe it wasn't him they were targeting? Do we have any information like that?
No, all of the statements and investigative case notes pretty much allude to the fact that it was intentional.
Well, since 1996, there hasn't been a whole lot of new leads or any new information?
No, we haven't had anything. As I said, that's why I'm here now, because we're following up on statements, we're looking at evidence, and in talking about the evidence, when the officers got there on the scene, and keep in mind there were security guards at the Purple Rain Club, there was a security company that worked there, and they responded as well. They get there, our officers get there, and not only does he have jewelry missing, he has articles of clothing missing.
So he was robbed.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So it might have been somebody who knew that he had the money, or maybe he had items that he wanted. It might have been somebody he knew.
I think it was someone he knew. I don't really doubt that part of the investigation at all, that it was someone he knew.
Well, that brings me to think that there's some people out there that may have more information that they're leading us to believe, because if it was an unknown associate, that person knows somebody else and knows somebody else.
Absolutely.
Now, if somebody was to want to give some information, even the slightest bit of a puzzle piece that you had mentioned last week, how would they contact you?
They can call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIMESC, I believe it is, or they can call the Sheriff's Office at 803-576-3462. And if that number is not immediately answered by someone, they can certainly leave a message and it will be returned. The call will be returned. Or they can just leave information and don't have to leave a number. We're looking for information. We're looking for someone who can validate what we have gotten in these statements and in these re-interviews with folks in the community. It just we need to inspire somebody to come forth with what they know to help the family. 29 years is way too long. Shelton had been 24 years. We have some that go back to 1964. These families have waited way too long to find answers. So I would encourage anybody in the community, if you know anything, to please say something.
A number of individuals who witness crimes, know people who have been a part of a crime, they are afraid to say anything for their own safety. What if there's an individual like that who would love to help? How would they get a hold of you?
Well, there are folks that I have talked to that really just don't want contact because they don't even want to see me in the neighborhood because they don't want their neighbors to know that they've made the phone call. The easiest way is that 576-3463 number, the 803. And that way, because it rings directly to me. So that's the easiest and quickest way to get information to me. If you want to stay anonymous, you certainly can. That is not an issue. We don't want to put anybody at risk. We've lost Truck. We don't need to lose anybody in trying to help him.
Could they email you as well?
They can, yes.
And what is that email?
DCRON as in Nancy, ISE at RCSD.net.
Very good. It's a sad situation.
It is.
And like you said before, in the cold case unit, we have a lot of these, and we are working diligently. The cold case unit and all the other deputies are trying to find tips. And if you have any, or if anybody out there has any, please give us a call.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be on these specific cases we've already talked about. If you know something about any open cold case out there, any open case, pick up the phone and let somebody know. You stop and think, okay, if that was my loved one that died in 1996, 29 years ago, what would I want somebody to do? What would I expect out of my community, out of my neighbors, out of my loved one's friends if they knew what had happened?
Absolutely. We want to thank you again for coming on the show. We want to thank you for tuning in again. And again, if you have any information, last week's segment was on Shelton Sanders. If you know anything, give us a call. Again, we spoke about those individuals who might have fear for their lives, or there's some information they want to get, but they don't want anybody to know it was them. 1-888-CRIME-SC. Give them a call. You can remain anonymous. If you have any information about Donald Carlos, 1996, please give us a call. Again, CRIMESC or 1-803-576-3000. Give us a call. Let's put some closure. Let's help the families out. At least bring them home. Again, we want to thank you, Senior Investigator Dottie Cronise, for being here today.
Thank you that we can continue doing this.
Yes, ma'am, and we just hope that our audience can give us some information that leads us to some kind of new tips, something that'll lead us to bring in some kind of support to the family.
We're hopeful. There are a lot of good people out there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We want to thank you at home for watching. And don't forget, Richland County Sheriff's Department on Facebook, RCSD on X, and subscribe here at Richland County Sheriff's DEPT on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.